So Carlo, you've taken us through the 5 steps of the PHReD-T tool. So what expert tips or guidance can you give to users?
Sure. I think there's probably a couple of things to consider. Remember that the tool's really flexible and it's about building skills. So anyone can do it, either by themselves or in teams. You can use it at all different stages and for different purposes to really help you develop something you're going to implement, or to help you develop some skills yourself where you might consider developing those designs for implementation later. I think it's also important to think about the different roles that you might include in using the PHReD-T tool. So while we talked about safety personnel and HR personnel, think also about some of the senior leaders that might also be involved, especially if you're doing it in a team environment. I think there's a really good opportunity for senior leaders in using the tool to develop their knowledge on psych hazards, remembering that understanding hazards is a really important part of due diligence, and then being able to understand what kinds of things you can do about the risks that are presented is also part of that. So there's a really good opportunity to include senior management, and remember that the process of doing this can have extra benefits. So yes, you can identify hazards, you can identify some redesigns, but the process itself can be a very consultative process, which has all the extra benefits of building teamwork, building trust, helping people feel listened to, and getting great solutions that work for your particular workplace.
So getting that leadership involvement in the PHReD-T tool is pretty crucial, as well as consulting staff.
Yeah.
And then looking at broad and all-encompassing ways that you could manage the hazards that have been identified with the tool.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there with the term involvement. So leadership involvement. Mm-hmm. So not just having leaders waiting around to be handed a redesign to support, but getting involved from the ground up in the process of developing the design. It's going to be much more likely to be successful when it does come for implementation. So involving everyone in a participative approach is how we do safety better.
PHReD-T is a tool within many tools that a workplace may have relating to psychosocial hazard risk management. How does the PHReD-T tool work within that space, within a workplace?
That's a great question, and another common one. I think that the tool can really complement what organisations are doing in relation to their psychosocial risk management program. Many organisations will want to use the existing frameworks that they have, and I think that's appropriate. If you are considering using other tools, I think it's important to look at what the objective of those tools are. This one, as we've been discussing, is about building skills and confidence, and it will also give you a range of redesign strategies that could be implemented.
And what would you say to those that might question, redesigning the work or redesigning a space may be costly or time-consuming? And how does PHReD-T work in that context, I suppose?
Some redesigns might be costly. That's true. But there's lots that are not. There's lots that are small but very meaningful that can be accommodated really easily. And that's part of the reason why in the PHReD-T process and tool, we ask people to think about all the possible redesigns. It's not only that you'll have to do one or two, you might do a whole range of them, just like you'd do for managing any other risk. You'd think about all the possible controls and try and do more than one so that you manage the risk as far as reasonably practicable. So some of them may cost money. They don't all have to be done straight away. They don't all have to be implemented straight away. There will still, of course, be a process of prioritisation. But I think it's also important to remember that, as we were talking before about hazards interacting with each other and with other types of hazards, many of the work redesign changes will not only address the psych hazard that they're focused on, but they'll address other psych hazards and they'll address other kinds of non-psych hazards as well, because it's all interacting. So the benefits that you can get from work redesign changes are bigger and broader than just addressing psych hazards and risks. And I find that most organisations implementing the kinds of work redesigns that are relevant to psych risks are also getting benefits in terms of morale, in terms of commitment, in terms of satisfaction, in terms of reducing turnover. So, and also in terms of succession planning and keeping knowledge within the organisation. So there's lots of benefits, and you've got to weigh up benefits and costs with the risks.
Very well put. Thank you so much for your time, Carlo. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Safe Work New South Wales has also published other sources of information that complement PHReD-T. These are the Safe Work New South Wales Designing Work to Manage Psychosocial Hazards Guide, the Systems Thinking Toolkit to manage and address work-related violence in New South Wales hospitals, and the Code of Practice for managing psychosocial hazards at work. We also have developed a case study scenario to demonstrate the practical use of the tool in preventing and managing work-related violence in New South Wales hospitals. These resources are all available on the Safe Work New South Wales website.